big tragedies can turn you into somebody you don't want to become. They can destroy your faith if you allow it to. They can totally ruin relationships. Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer, and I want to talk about something I actually heard this Sunday at church, and I thought it was really good. The pastor was talking about basically things that happen in your life, whether they're things, just circumstance, or, things that you maybe can't control, things that other people caused, or something that you caused. And a lot of times the things that happen in our lives are because of things that we caused. There certainly are circumstances that play into it, but ultimately I believe in true accountability. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to, take that accountability or to see through everything that happened and decide, yeah, I could have done some things differently. But I think that's so super important because in my opinion, you really don't learn much if you don't have accountability. I think that's where people that don't take accountability, they don't do things to move themselves forward, right? They just continue to blame others. And then if it's always somebody else's fault, if it's, circumstances that always happen, then it's always oh, geez, well, of course that's going to happen. And they don't want to do something. That's one of my, the sayings I hate the most is when somebody's like, "What? Of course that just happened." Or, that type of thing, right? You're sitting there and, you're at the checkout. I was at the checkout line the other day and I can't remember exactly what happened, but the person at the checkout's like, I can't imagine that happened to me again. And it was like, oh, geez, you're a victim, right? You're always a victim. So I hate that saying is like, no, of course that happened to me. Or, if I do this, it's going to happen. Right. And so you're always expecting bad results because of it. So anyways, so pastor, our pastor, he was, talking about tragedies and bad things that happen. And what, his point was, look, tragedies do happen. Bad things do happen. People die, businesses, things go poorly in your business, relationships end, whatever it might be. But tragedies happen, bad things happen. And his point is, look, God doesn't cause the hardship, but God can work in it to mold, to shape, and transform us. And I think that's the most valuable thing, right? Is that when tragedies do happen or just mistakes happen, it doesn't have to be a tragedy. It can be something simple and small and little, like just a lesson you're learning in business, right? It's a lesson that you learn that can mold, shape, and transform you. And you have to use that lesson to figure out how can you get better, right? They aren't these tragedies, these lessons, these mistakes, the things that don't go right. They're not meant to destroy you. Don't allow them to destroy you. They're meant to build you. They're meant to create opportunities for growth. And I think that's where the difference between those who are successful and those who are not is those who are successful are going to use those as opportunities for growth. They're going to use those for opportunities to build. They're going to not allow the, bad things that happen in their life to hold them back, to grip them, to stop them. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't take responsibility for that. And so I think that's definitely something that we have to make sure we're doing is, look, I beat myself up all the time for things that don't go right. And I sometimes will sit on them for too long of things that aren't going right. But I think it is important to beat yourself up to an extent, right? I think it's really important to take the things that go wrong and to really think about them and to process that and why did it go wrong, and to write it down, to talk through it, whatever you have to do to really truly process what went wrong in this situation. Of course, the bigger it is, the more important that is, but I still think it's really important for the small things that happen and how they went wrong. And I think you got to go more than just one layer deep with those. It's not just like what went wrong and, oh, yeah, the interest rates changed. No, like, tell me more. It's more than just the interest rates changed. That wasn't just what went wrong with this investment. Well, I bought, it, um, there was, big renovations. Okay. Well, what went wrong with that? Well, I didn't have the right contractor in place. Okay. What went wrong with that? Well, I didn't budget properly, the renovations because we found too much stuff after. Okay. What went wrong with that? Right. The due diligence wasn't thorough enough. Okay. Why? We didn't have proper checklists in place, for due diligence. Okay, but why? Well, we didn't have the right people that were joining us on the due diligence walk, such as inspectors, contractors, and so on. Okay, so why is that happening to you? Or how do we fix that, right? And so we got to dig down layers deep, and then, okay, so that's great. So we figured out that we didn't do good due diligence. We didn't have the right contractors during the due diligence. We didn't have the right checklists in place. And so when that happened, we ended up going over budget, and we had the wrong contractors to start with during the project. And that's how things went wrong. And it wasn't maybe the underlying or the first issue that we thought of. It was all these other issues that happened. So how do we fix that? Right? We need to figure out how can we fix those problems. So, okay, let's make some checklists. Let's find the right people to where when we have a property under contract the next time, we've got all the right people in place. We're not skipping it. We're not like, oh, well, I don't want to spend money on it. I just don't want to bother people. Like, look, no, spend the time, spend the effort, spend the money, because that's how you got in trouble in the first place. So we have to learn from our issues. Again, use these. They're not meant to hold you back. They're not meant to destroy you. Use these learning lessons to build you up, to create greater opportunities for you, right? To create the opportunity for growth. Use it to make your company bigger, better, stronger. And that's how you're going to do it. But beat yourself up on it a little bit, right? When things go wrong, especially if the more you had to play with it, certainly the role that you had to play with it, certainly you definitely want to beat yourself up about it. Certainly you want to really think about what went wrong and how and why and what you did different, what you should have done differently. And then really think about, okay, am I set up for success in this next step, right? Am I set up for success? Or who do we need to put in place? What do we need to put in place? How do we need to do things differently, right? You have to really, truly think through that. Otherwise, the mistake is just for nothing, right? That you're just going to keep on making it. And that's obviously that's not good, right? We don't want to keep on making the same mistakes over and over again. Look, and I don't want to downplay and say things aren't circumstance, right? Things do happen. Interest rates did skyrocket. Like interest rates went up faster than they've ever gone up in history. They skyrocketed, and literally nobody was predicting it. And now you can look at in hindsight and say, well, of course, interest rates were going to go up, but nobody was predicting it because there's so many reasons why they shouldn't go up. And so many reasons why people didn't think they would go up. And most people thought they would go up, but going up from, basically the baseline level of almost zero for the Fed fund rates to like 1 or 2 is totally different than going from 0 to 5. Like that's a massive difference. So yeah, sure. Like you couldn't necessarily predict that, but could you have done things to help mitigate against that risk. Yeah, absolutely. Right. There's plenty of things you could have done to help mitigate against that risk. So now in the future, you can't predict certain things. Like you still can't predict what's going to happen with interest rates. So what are you doing right now, today, moving forward, to mitigate against that risk, to not necessarily 100% be bulletproof, but to try to stop the bad things from maybe happening, or at least lessen the chances of them from those things going wrong, right? I can't help that, Russia attacks Ukraine. I can't help that there's conflict in the Middle East. Like I can't help if somebody attacks, hopefully it doesn't happen, but attacks the U.S. Like we can't help those things. We can't necessarily. I mean, yeah, we vote for who's president, we vote for who's governor, we vote for who's mayor, but we can't necessarily help that. And sometimes we just can't predict it, especially long term. Like, I don't know who's going to get elected next for president. But again, like, what are you doing to mitigate those potential challenges that are ahead? And really process and think through if they are big challenges or not. Quite frankly, I think politics are they do present some challenges, but I think as we really look through politics, it's a fairly slow eroding of things that are happening. So I think a lot of it's fairly predictable. There are things that happen that maybe aren't as predictable as, but again, what can you do to help eliminate some of that risk, or mitigate some of that risk? You can never eliminate risk. It's always going to be there. But how can we do it so we don't have that second big loss, that tragedy, that, that type of thing. But again, these losses, these tragedies, these mistakes, they're moments that help us build our character. Our character can grow, our faith can strengthen, our relationships can grow, or they could do the exact opposite. So you're going to have to decide what you're going to allow them to do to you, right? So it can totally destroy your character. Like, big tragedies can turn you into somebody you don't want to become. They can destroy your faith if you allow it to. They can totally ruin relationships. I mean, look, I don't know this family very well, but when we moved in to our current house, the neighbor just graduated high school and went out and did something really stupid, and took a gun. And the story is that he was in like the downtown area and shooting at animals in the middle of the night, and shot at a vehicle and ended up killing the person. And so he's in jail. And of course, that's a big tragedy for these parents. And the parents, mom and dad, ended up getting divorced. Now, again, I don't know if their relationship was healthy or not, and if they were about to get divorced. Maybe that's what caused this kid to be off. I don't, again, I don't know the whole story, but that's a perfect example of a tragedy that can now completely destroy a relationship. Instead of this mom and dad coming together, the husband and wife coming together, they tore themselves apart. And you have to decide what you're going to allow this to do. Now, small mistakes hopefully don't cause that, but they still can, because small mistakes can add up and cause a lot of stress, and really either destroy our character, destroy our faith, destroy our relationships, destroy our business, or they can be moments that help them grow, help them strengthen. And you have to decide how you're going to let it define you. Um, the mistakes, the losses, the tragedies, those things, they're always going to be a part of your story. But you can use it for fuel to do greater things and get farther. Look, I think I was talking with somebody recently, and they actually two people recently, and we've gone through a ton of struggles in our business throughout the years. Currently, we've got some properties that aren't are just kind of struggling, and so, but I was talking to two guys. One he ended up selling a building, apartment building, and they didn't do nearly as well as what they had planned on. But quite frankly, they made their investors money, but they just didn't do well. They didn't make them much, and so really beat himself up and talking about the investor trust and all that kind of stuff. And the other person actually lost 90% of their investors' capital. It was like 92%, I think it was. And again, same thing. And I had to, like, talking through them. I'm going, hey guys, look, let's start thinking about some of these people that have gone through some major things. And so, Donald Trump, right? 6 bankruptcies. Now, not personally, but his business is six times bankrupt. Lost investors' money on all of those. Sam Zell, Chicago Tribune, that was a complete failure. He was known as the grave dancer. I mean, Sam Zell was an awesome investor. People love Sam Zell, but he lost investors' money on plenty of deals. But he made them a ton of money too, right? So he took a bunch of big risks. He was known as a grave dancer. One of his quotes, and I don't remember the exact quote, but he basically said, like, one of the issues with what I do is that I win big, but I also sometimes lose. Look at companies. Apple almost went completely out of business. Like, Starbucks had to close like 1,000 stores. Ford and Chrysler and um, like all the automakers, even Tesla right now. Look at Tesla's going through some struggles. The stock, if you bought stock at the peak, look at your stock today and where it went, right? So General Motors, Best Buy, like Best Buy almost went out of business. So some of these companies have really, really struggled. Delta Airlines filed for bankruptcy, right? Lego filed for bankruptcy, or I don't know if they filed it, but they were almost bankrupt. So many stories that we can look at and think about, and companies that really, really went through major struggles, but then they're still around today and they're successful today, like super successful today. And you wouldn't think about, like, if I told you, yeah, Apple was a terrible company, right? Well, no, they're an amazing company. But in the mid 90s, like, they were almost bankrupt. Like, they really were struggling. Um, Now look at them, right? They're one of the biggest, most powerful, successful companies in the world. They're doing amazing, right? So, total turnaround, and they were able to take their mistakes. They were able to take their failures that were happening at that time in the mid 90s, and they were to turn them into something and use that for fuel and turn it into something amazing. So that's what I want you to do. Whether it's big, whether it's small, take that and use it take those, tragedies, take those mistakes, whatever, and use it to build, use it to grow, use it for fuel, right? And we want to mold, shape, and transform us in the positive direction. That's all I got for today. You have a fantastic rest of the day. Make every day Saturday. Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. But your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So
The other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.